Good evening to you and listeners, and of course, your viewers of this week in interview. Welcome to another week, another episode of This Week in Interview with your host and guide, Anthony Drago. It's a pleasure to be with you, and those of you who are on with us for the first time, welcome aboard. And equally, those of you who come back every Wednesday, a very warm welcome back to you. I really, really appreciate you making the time to have us in your schedule every week after week. So, welcome and sit back. Of course, we want to acknowledge the management of RVR Jams Radio, who carries this weekend interview live in Dominica on DigiPlay Channel 59. Also, similarly, Radio SBE, online Radio SBE in the Toronto market, carries this weekend interview live as well. So, what do I have on tap for you tonight? If you listen to my program often, you will also know that I I always talk about lament the fact that in the Caribbean we're not big on data, especially in Dominica. We're not big on data and using data to make decisions. We don't have a fully formal, established way of getting information and analyzing it and having it available to whoever needs it to make informed decisions. So tonight we are going to see what can be done about that. And those of you who are familiar with my guest tonight, Mr. Alex Bruno, Alex Powell Bruno, knows that he has done some polling in the region, and he has gotten into, training folks to go around and to ask specific questions about whatever topic that he feels needs research, and he also will analyze those and present them to us. And so he has recently conducted some polls in Dominica, and he has the results of those polls and will help us to understand the various conclusions, indications. We'll ask him about the confidence that with which can be placed in those polls for decision making. As we say in the region, what grain of salt, what size of grain of salt we should take with certain conclusions. And we'll just keep it flowing. I'm super excited to have him as my guest tonight. Is Mr. Alex Bruno. He's, uh, he's no stranger. He's with me every month. One Wednesday every month, he's with me. And tonight, our topic, we're discussing his recent poll in Dominica. So let's bring Alex up on stage, and so I can welcome him and we can launch into the conversation. Alex, my brother, good evening. Great to see you again.
Good good to see you and good evening. Nice to be here. Looking forward to our conversations.
Definitely. The last time you were on, we had a little bit of technical difficulty, and we had to abort
Yes,
prematurely.
yes.
So it's a real good to see you nice and clear so far. You're coming in loud and clean. So I look forward to our conversation. I'm going to the full length tonight.
Yeah, looking forward to that as well. I think the last time we tried connecting, I was somewhere traveling. I was on the island and it was the connection was a bit choppy. So
Yeah,
apologize for that, but I think we should be issue free tonight.
definitely, definitely. I mean, we make more than make up for the last time. So let's launch right into it. I give a brief introduction about data and the importance of having, some people say data. I switch back and forth, but having data, and especially having data so that we can make decisions that are not guesses, or mostly guesses. We make decisions based on the data that we have, comparing it to what has happened in the past, comparing it to what we can project in the future, but at least having some basis that if somebody says, well, Alex, why did you decide to wear a black shirt tonight? You say, well, I just feel like having a black shirt. But if somebody tell you, Alex, why did you buy that BMW that you now drive? You can say, give them the data that supports a BMW lasting for so many years and the comfort and those kind of things. That's what we mean when we say using data for decision making. So, Alex, I'm going to let you do a brief intro about the whole concept of collecting data and using data. You'll keep it brief because we really want to get into the meat of the polls that you just concluded.
Okay, so data simply mean having information that one can rely on when making inferences in any field of endeavor. A lawyer does not give opinion outside of data. An opinion has to be based on some facts. And there are people who sometimes push back at that and say opinions can be anything you think. In my training, opinion is not whatever you think. Opinion has to be based on something that is found to be a fact.
Right,
So in politics, as any other field, you cannot just assume because you have been winning, you're going to continue winning. You may very well continue winning, but it is safer to understand why and how you most likely are going to win. So you may call it right and say, yes, we traditionally win in Grammys, so we're going to win. But in the absence of data, you're still just supposing.
right,
Data confirms what we already assume or presume, and is the safest way to do things. Politics, and all the other social sciences, law for sure. You do not give opinions in law that's not based on some sort of precedent or proven fact. Any field of endeavor. So, what I like to say in a nutshell is that data is like the points of a plan. You don't build a house without a plan. The data is what creates the plan, different components of the plan to build the house. And that is how significant data is to anything that we do in life.
okay. A great introduction and explanation of what is data. So let's go specifically into what our topic tonight. You conducted some data, you collected some data in
Yes.
Dominica recently as part of a
Yes.
poll. I'm
Mhm.
going to give you the opportunity to describe what were you is it correct to call it research, or what were you
Yes.
collecting data on,
Yes.
and lay out for the audience how you went about designing that data collection.
Okay, interesting. So a poll is a research. I mean, a research is to get information, accumulate information from the source.
Right.
How do you get that? You go to the source. In Dominica, I think it is easier and better to do face to face, meaning you talk to people one on one. There are
Mhm.
different ways of getting information. You could go on social media and gauge to see how people disseminate information. You could do phone calls. There are many several ways, but I think because of Dominica's unique and dynamic situation, it is easier to go to the people and ask questions of the people. Or you may say, well, people know people and people might try to deceive you with answers. That's where the design of the survey, of the research of the poll comes in. You ask a question in a different way a few times. So you find ambiguities, you control for variables that are there. People are going to be dishonest in their responses most of the time. But anybody who understands how to design items on a poll knows how to control for ambiguities and such. So, yes, a poll is like a research, a survey is what you do when you do a poll. And opinions are the views held by people. For you to know or to be able to measure the view, you have to get the view. And a thought that is not expressed is not an opinion, it's just a thought. And I always advise my people to express your thoughts as much as you can. And even if you express a thought, let's say on a talk show, that does not make it scientific, it does not make it sacrosanct. There are scientific ways of expressing and capturing opinions. And that's what we do as people who work in my field. After many, many, many years of training, the right policies, the right principles, the best practices, we come up with items on a survey or on a poll. An item is like a question. So the poll that I did had 14 questions, 14 items. and you ask those questions in different ways. Well, the same way every time, but each item feed from the other. Some one item sometimes cancel out the ambiguities in the item before, and the flow in which you ask the questions as well deal with what one can expect. So as someone who designs a poll, you know what you're looking for. You design the poll based on what you want to get, and you follow the matrix and the rubric of the poll to the T. You don't deviate. You don't get emotional. You don't take sides, and you certainly don't interfere with the results that you get. You present the result as is. And that, in a nutshell, is what I would have done in Dominica between the 16th and the 26th of July. But not only did I do one poll, I did a nationwide poll, and I also did two focus polls, one in the Portsmouth area and one in the Roseau Valley area. These are private polls for people who had interest in those particular areas.
Okay.
And I will not be sharing information about that. But the nationwide poll was one that we commissioned as our business, CAPA, Caribbean Agency for Political Advancement.
Say that again, say that slower.
CAPA, Caribbean Agencies for Political Development or Advancement.
Okay.
CAPA. And our business is politics. That's what we do. We don't just do polling for elections. We do polls for the wide range of polling. We have been polling Dominica for over 20 years, and we have been doing political opinions from 2019, thereabout. So, I mean, I would have done a number of polls, copra production and the availability of the raw material, the works. I mean, I've done at least maybe 15 or 20 polls on island. And elsewhere as well. We work elsewhere as well. And I would like to say that we know Dominica well. I am not sure that any agency who polls Dominica would know Dominica better than us, because that's where we're from. We understand the culture, we know the people, and we have a rapport with the people. The people trust us, we trust the people, and we believe that we should give back to the people some information, because at the end of the day, you know nothing until the people tell you something. So that's why I'm here with you tonight, Tony. I'm trying to give a little more information so that the people will feel as satisfied that some of the work that they give to us is now being shared back with them, so they understand that we didn't just do this for selfish reasons only. Although there are private reasons why we do it, but the people ought to know something about the work that we did.
Right. So go a little deeper into the poll, the one that you said was a public poll that you're able to talk and present the results. What was the objective? What were you looking for in that poll?
So we wanted to find the political state of play on the island, how things stand, where we are as a people, how we think about politics, and what in the minds of Dominicans is really happening in Dominica today as far as electability of parties is concerned, and the state of the people as far as their confidence in the people and parties who put themselves up to be elected. So that's pretty much what it was, to gauge the political state of play at this present juncture, especially since I had been hearing so much talk about independent candidates. I've been hearing talks about all parties coming together, all opposition parties coming together as one to run and win. I've been hearing talks about the major opposition being the majority party in terms of the politics, the business of politics, and the most popular. So we wanted to find out what is, especially following an election which was boycotted by an established party, and to see where Dominicans are at this time. So that was pretty much what we did to gauge the political state of play, because if you don't know that, you really don't know that. As I said, especially coming from a situation where the major incumbent opposition boycotted an entire election and gave up its seat in parliament, one ought to know where Dominicans are, what Dominicans felt, and I'm happy to state that we, based on the work that we would have done, have a very fair understanding, more than fair understanding, a very good understanding as to where the people's mind are at this present moment, and it is as pure and as fresh as it gets.
as clear as crystal water, as we used to say that Vic Rivera when he was in Parliament in the
Oh yes,
70s.
oh yes, yeah,
So the objective was to get an understanding of the political state of play in Dominica. So, and after analyzing the results of the poll, what is the general state of play,
yes.
political state of play in Dominica?
The most resounding results or takeaway from the poll is one, there's a vast number of Dominicans who are sitting in quiet abeyance. I am not saying that they shifted because they didn't shift to any party particularly, but they certainly shifted away from the incumbent politics and parties. So upwards of 43, 44% of Dominicans have not committed one way or the other where they're going to throw their supports. And that is a resounding amount. So people would have moved from the incumbent majority party and people would have moved from the incumbent minority because there is a popular notion that the incumbent party is only the one that is the majority party in the government. And that is not the case. We have two incumbent parties in Dominica, the Dominica Labour Party and the UWP. One is incumbent majority, one is the incumbent minority. And you may say, well, why do you call one the incumbent? An incumbent is a party or a person who has won election and is occupying a seat. Now, it's true that the UWP is not occupying any seats, but they are the longest serving, most established opposition entity who chose to boycott the last election. So they are not incumbent per se as in terms of holding and trying to retain seats in the opposition, but they, for all intents and purposes, maintain that sort of position in the sphere as an established opposition party. And yes, the Dominican Labour Party is the incumbent party. They are in government and they are trying to maintain seats. Now, our findings suggest that Dominicans are so disillusioned with the incumbency that they have totally moved away from both and they are sitting in quiet abeyance. Some of them have totally resigned themselves from politics. Some are guessing, some are disgruntled, some have lost hope. But there's a steady 40, 43, 44% of Dominicans who are not committing one way or the other as we speak. That is the biggest takeaway. Also, underemployment and unemployment when it comes to youth is at an all-time high. It's above 60%. So we found that to be the case. That's quite alarming and sad, if you ask me. Over 60% of youth are either unemployed and or underemployed.
What was the definition of youth, age-wise?
Between age 18 to 35, 36. Yeah, unemployed or underemployed. Most of them through NEP. That's an underemployment because that's not a big paying job, but it's a very interesting little hub in terms of employment in Dominica. One that I'll not criticize, but one that is not providing the sort of stability and of course returns. But it's good. It's filling a gap. And I would advise against the wholesale criticism of the NDP. So that is a second standout takeaway from the poll. The other one is the unfavorability of both parties, because that was measured. People will ask how they feel about both parties and the job the Prime Minister and et al. Are doing, and Dominicans are not very thrilled about that. That does not mean, Tony, however, that the Prime Minister is going to lose and his party is going to be kicked out of office. It just means that where Dominica is today and Dominicans are today, they do not feel very hot about them. And the other side, again, incumbency when it comes to majority in politics has great advantages. And I will speak a little bit about the reform and the confirmation of the vote that I think will go the way of the incumbent majority party, because for all intents and purposes, it appears as if the reform and the reaffirmation or confirmation has been designed to benefit that party. So I'm not here saying that anybody's going to lose or win. I'm just here talking about predictions and trends in the politics. So that is another glaring fact when it comes to the favorability of either major political parties in Dominica. That's an all-time low. I won't talk too much about the UWP because somehow people believe when you speak the gospel truth about what is actually happening in the space, you should not be castigating the opposition. It should be the incumbent majority. I do not see it that way, but I know my public. I know my public, and I identify as a professional, yes, but someone who believes that it's time that the incumbent majority be switched and changed. And I'm trying to be as gracious as I can, professionally, so to the opposition politics in Dominica. So please help me to maintain that graciousness, Tony. But people are not very fond of the
I will
UWP.
I will try because
People are not very fond of UWP as a party in terms of favorability, and a lot has to do because of the boycotting of the last election. I have said so before. I don't think they believed me. I polled the last time. It showed that this time is even more so. That was one of the most colossal mistakes that the party would have made, not to contest the election and give up the power. That has hurt the parties tremendously, and it showed up in the confidence level in the party.
okay, so we have a vast middle.
Mhm.
So we have one major party that's in government, one major party that's opposing, and we have that middle where in the US we call them swing voters, potential swing voters, independents. In other words, people who, if they are messaged properly by either side,
Yes,
might decide to vote one way or the other. So
yes,
so 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 again, I am going to take the opportunity to point out that that is the importance of what you do. Because if I am in politics, on either side I'm in politics, it's not that I'm taking the people who already support me for granted, but they're already in the bag, right? I have less to do to maintain the support. My strategy is to win, is to say, well, let me see how many people I can add to that. And that 45% that you're talking is a big pool that
yeah,
both parties can go after to give a message to say, vote for me. So that's 43%.
yes.
Um, but did you measure, do you have any idea if they were on either side or not before they decided, you know what,
Oh
I will vote
yes, oh
one way or the other?
yes, oh
Mm-hmm.
yeah, man. I pulled for party affiliation,
Mm-hmm.
and we have the figure. I'm not going to share that though because I don't want to really give the party's information just like that. But we
No, no,
pulled
no,
for
but I won't ask you to share specific numbers, but did you see more of an attrition from the incumbent majority or the incumbent minority, or was it pretty even?
it was a yeah kind of a even Stevens, but a little more, just a few percentage points more on the incumbent majority side.
Okay.
A lot of supporters of the incumbent majority party, the Dominican Labour Party, believes that the party can be changed and should be changed. A lot of them.
Mm-hmm.
It is just that they do not see who they're changing for
Okay.
or who they're
What
changing
the
to.
replace, what the viable replacement would
Yeah,
be.
they
Mm-hmm.
certainly don't see it, and they are vehemently against what appears to be the alternative.
Mm-hmm.
It would be easier. I do not know how the present established opposition is going to make grounds or headway in terms of the DLP support. It will take a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It will take, I mean, I do not want to say what it will take, but I have a very good idea what the party really needs to be doing at this point to be able to attract those members of the majority party that are convinced that it's probably time, but not them.
So, scenario
Mhm.
that as a strategist, I put another hat of a strategist, and I'm sitting on either side of the fence, I have two kinds of people, maybe three kinds of people in that 43%. I have those who supported me in the past, who are now a little more, to some extent, more or less, disaffected with me,
Yeah,
and so they've
on the
they've they've
fence.
they've, they've pulled back their check. I no longer have their check in my pocket. They've pulled back their check.
Yeah.
I have those who were supporting on the other side of me who also pull back the check from that side, but have not yet decided that they come into my camp.
Mhm.
And I have some people in the middle of that who were not on either side. Sometimes they would vote the incumbent majority, sometimes they would
Yeah.
vote the minority, sometimes they wouldn't vote. And so it's interesting now because the strategy would be to decide who you're going to target. If you're going to try to
Mhm.
recapture the people who you would have lost, because maybe that's just easier because once they believed in you, maybe it's old firewood doesn't take time to light, so maybe it might be easier to recapture them. Or I have some people who are a little disillusioned from all their support they've done in the past and say, okay, come to me. This is what I'll offer you as comfort.
Mhm.
So it could be a very interesting election. But Alex, let me ask you, because we're talking about data and the use of it to make decisions. Are, are those parties on either side seeming to make use of that kind of information in their strategy planning? Does it appear
Okay.
that way?
Um, well, I can tell you for sure that none of the parties have conducted polls on the island recently.
Hmm.
That's a question that I asked. And over the past, let's say, a year and a half, there had been no scientific work done on the island. That's what I found out. There was some work done in the eastern part of Dominica, but that was focused on housing in Casa Bruce area.
Hmm.
Outside of that, no. So I am sure that no party has done the science, including the Dominica Labour Party.
Right.
Are parties interested in the work? Of course. I was asked to make a phone call to somebody in the majority party side. I didn't because I don't think it was in my place to so do.
Hmm.
Because the poll was commissioned by us, and I cannot, after commissioning a poll, call people and tell people I have commissioned a poll. Let's talk. That would not be ethical.
Right.
If you want to commission me to do a poll, you talk to me and you say, "Hey, I have some items. Hey, develop that for me. I give you my price. I work for you." But after I started working, I cannot call you and tell you I'm working and I want $80,000.
Because when you approach the subjects, you will have had to declare to them
Yes,
what under what circumstances you're asking the questions, and
yes,
which would disclose who somewhat. Well, I'm doing this for the incumbent majority, or I'm doing this for this
certainly,
person, and so on. So you cannot,
certainly,
after the fact, um, use it
certainly.
without this people's permission. Yeah.
That's correct. That's 100% correct. So that's why I didn't bother call anybody. And my dear friends, again, because I have friends on both sides, in the government side and in the opposition side.
Hmm.
My dear friends in the opposition side, we have been talking, and we in this business for as a business. So yeah, we have been working, and we have had some consultations, so to speak, and I have shared some information, but nothing close to what I would like to be doing. I mean, you have to. This costs a lot of money. The work that we do costs a
Hmm.
lot of money. To poll the entire country is pretty close to $80,000 to get the data and to
Wow. Wow.
assemble the information. I didn't get that. I didn't get that because we didn't have anybody finance. I put in the money, and friends who supported us in small ways, and we didn't poll the entire country. I should say so. We polled 12 constituencies because there's no way we could afford to collect data in all 21 because it costs a certain amount of money to have people collecting data per constituency.
Right.
So we had to focus on just 12, almost 13, and to get enough information that gives us a good read of the island. Now, that's why the confidence level in that particular survey was not up in the high percentile, 95, 98 percentile. We were around 90-ish percent because
Mm.
we believe that we needed more areas. And one of the things that affected the confidence as well was the the sampling. We went by the old list of electors, and that would have necessitated that we did a particular amount of samples.
Hmm.
But in the process of doing the poll, we realized that we're dealing with a situation of a list that is being reconfirmed. And the confirmed list is showing that the list that we're working with is going to be reduced by almost 50%.
Wow.
So do we continue going for higher sample and oversampling? So I took a decision to not do the full samples, the full number of samples that we had designed to do initially, because it was just not making um, statistical sense.
Mhm.
And that had to have been a change that I made on the field. We're not going to do 1,000 people anymore. We're going to do less than that because we don't need to do 1,000 if we have that size. And we are not even sure that the old list is what's going to be used for the next election. In fact, we are sure that the confirmed list is what's going to be used at the next election. So that interfered. It played a little trick in terms of how we actually the number of samples that we did. So I'm being quite frank with you in terms of we
Mhm.
made an adjustment on the field, and
Mhm.
that have played into the confidence, that the overall confidence that we had. Because we did not go into that with the confirmed number of people, because the process is still happening. So you had to have made adjustments and control from that in the field, Tony. So these are the kind of decisions that you have to make as opposed to as someone who's doing the statistics. And any statistician now would understand that this was necessary, that you don't oversample. You never oversample when you do those work. Because oversampling can put you, it can create errors in itself for you.
Yeah, yeah. And it's important to, even if people don't quite understand the technicality of it, but to understand that the design of the pole is not something that was invented by Alex Bruno.
Oh no.
Alex Bruno is following a certain type of polling system. There's more than one type. And based on that, he's setting the parameters. And as he's explained, when he started, you started with a population size of a voters list that 80,000 people or whatever. And in the middle of it, you realize that in reality, their population is not so large. And so you have to go back and say, okay, if I were to sample on what I estimate the true population would be, I would have to make adjustments to my sample size and
Yes.
all of that. So all of that explains and points to the professionalism and the actual technical knowledge that you have about
Correct.
polls. It's not just you deciding, Alex, we're going down for you and I going down Dominica for Curl Fest. So while we're there, let's go around the country and ask some people some questions
Oh
and
no.
call it a poll. That's absolutely not what's happening.
Oh
It's
no, my
actually
brother.
being done in a scientific manner. Alex, it's at the bottom of the hour. I have to do a little commercial break. So now is a good time to do that break. And when we come back, I want you to dive deeper into some of the additional findings, what you found to be most interesting,
Mhm.
what should people look out for, and of course qualify it. So okay, if party A or does whatever, they may see a reward, that sort of thing. However we interpret the results of the polls. So folks, I'm going to take a quick break. I am asking you to stay on. This is pretty interesting because we're not in the habit of using data to make decisions, and we should be, especially now there's so many tools available to use data to make decisions. We need to be able to incorporate that into our culture. Yeah, I know we are storytellers, we pass down things orally and so on and so forth, but with all of the tools that the world has at our disposal, we have to be able to incorporate some of those new techniques. And that is what my guest tonight, Alex Bruno, is taking up on his own and his company to do. And we're appreciative of that. And I'm sure 50 years from now, 75 years from 100 years from now, we'll have students who are either in their PhD programs or whatever, or they're trying to track the history and reconstruct what was going on in Dominica and the region in 2026, why one person was able to stay in government for 26 years, why why there's a change, or why after 26 years he continued for another 26 years. All of that information that he's collecting right now will be right there
Yeah.
for use and for information to us as we go forward. So let's take a quick break, hear from our sponsors, and we'll be right back.
Presented by
Ladies and gentlemen, get ready for another amazing cultural experience hosted by Madame Wabduyet Canada Inc. It's the absolute ultimate cultural celebration, the Madames of Madames and the Jeune Madame Wab Cultural Show.
On nous fait culture vivre.
Let the culture live. Mark your calendars for Sunday, September the 20th, 2026. The excitement kicks off at 2 p.m. Eastern Time at the beautiful St. Peter and Paul Banquet Hall, located at 231 Milner Avenue, right at Markham Road and the 401 in Toronto. For tickets and more information, call your cultural connection right now. Contact Lorraine at 905-683-6806. Vanessa at 780-691-5795. Glenora at 647-262-9944 or Nadell at 647-291-5282. Come, celebrate the heritage, feel the rhythm, and witness the elegance. See you there.
All right, folks. Yes, I know you were expecting Anthony to come back to you, but just give me a second here while I interrupt your viewing for a little bit. I just want to share a couple of things with you. First of all, thank you for tuning in, TDN viewers, radio listeners, wherever you are tuned in. Thank you to the stations who carry us. But I wanted to share two things. One, these two books up on top there, kind of hiding my face. The Flying, well, it's actually one book, but one is the paperback version, one is the hardcover version, and also the Kindle version is available today. It was supposed to be ready tomorrow, but it's ready early. So get your copy of The Flying Crapo 4 Unexpected Door. Brand new stories. Some of them are continuations from previous books, but certainly you will enjoy these new stories. So go to Amazon now. Well, after the show, search for The Flying Crapo. You'll find it and you'll find book 4 waiting for you. Don't miss out. If you haven't read The Flying Crapo before, now is a good time to get all 4 books and you can basically start a library with that. So thank you, folks, thank you to those who have already bought the book and books and those who will support us in the future. All right, so I will put a link to that in the comments so you guys can easily just click on the link and go check it out, get your copies. Last thing, and then I'll hand you back over to our host. The TDN Radio app dedicated to TDN Radio only is now available in the Android Play Store. So check it out. Just go to Android, go to your Play Store and search for TDN Radio. Download that. I will try to put the link in there as well in the comments so you can check it out. Thank you, folks. Now back to the program and have a good one. Oh, one more thing. It takes a lot to put these programs together. So I just want to remind you that while you are watching, give us a like, share the program, subscribe to the YouTube channels, and wherever you are watching, you can definitely do that. So thank you very much. I will take myself out and go back to the host and the guest. Thank you very much for tuning in.
Those two things actually. The Flying Crapo is the new version 4. If you have not had your copies of 1, 2, and 3, I suggest you get those as well. Each publication is independent, so you can get the 4 certainly, but also once you've read 4 and you like the stories, go get 2, get 3, 2, and 1. And also with the TDN Radio app, now you can have it on your phone, you can have it on your mobile device. You can listen to TDN Radio much easier throughout your day, and also the Android, the Apple users Mac and iPhone and so on, don't feel too neglected. We're working on getting it in the iOS store as well. All right. So we're back with our guest Alex Bruno, and we're talking about the results of his poll that he recently conducted in Dominica, which was, you know, in quest of understanding the political state of play in Dominica. And he highlighted three major standouts from the results of the poll. 43% of voters in Dominica are on the fence. 60%, the alarming number of our young people between the ages of 18 and 35 are unemployed, and how does that play into the decisions when they go to the poll. I don't have a percentage, but he said there's a vast majority of people who find both major parties losing favor with them. So, Alex, how does the high youth unemployment, because these people, if they're 35 and lower, all they know is, is the Labour Party in government. And so if 60% of them are underemployed or unemployed, how do you anticipate that affecting the next election, general election?
Well, I do not know how it will affect the election, because the youth um, vote can be sourced or attracted by different means. So parties just need to know what they need to do to rally the youth. And I believe the majority party has done that very well, successfully over the past few years, and may very well find ways to exploit. If you can only observe what has been happening, I saw an event called Breakfast Fest in Dominica a couple of weeks ago, um, and you saw who was there and the appearance that was made, and that is FET, that is CO.
Not only that, every year they have a theme caller, and the theme caller this year was pretty interesting.
Yeah, so this is not this. There's very little coincidence in a lot of things that you see in the market space, in the business. You see, elections are won before the day of the election. People create situations, have amalgamations, collaborations, messaging strategies that seek to attract. I mean, one would see as well the bike fest and other stuff like that. So I don't really want to get too much into the things that I think people should be looking out for. But all I can say is that one just has to know how to source the votes. And at the end of the day, the vote is the money. And the youth can be rallied in many different ways. Does that solve the problem of the unemployment of the youth? No. But the youth votes can be sourced by using different strategy and different techniques, so to speak.
I'm taking my next question from the audience. Viva Mamo, who is popular in the Dominican Facebook presence, is asking, to the extent that you can answer that, Alex, well, what specific questions did you ask to arrive at the conclusion that voters have lost confidence in the United Workers' Party because of the boycott? Was your polling framed to support your long-held belief that the boycott was a failure from its conception? So, Alex, in answering that, you can address how do you analyze your question so that it doesn't result in implicit bias. I guess it's kind of like an example of what the person is asking. But if you want to answer that question.
Oh, well, I'm certainly not going to feed Viva Mam with the specific question that I asked. Although on that particular poll, I did not ask the boycott question. I asked it the poll before. And the answer was very conclusive into what people actually thought of the boycott. So, but that's like a still poll, as a year old. We don't have to get into that. This time around, the unfavorability continued to dwindle. And there is something called unsolicited responses. That's when I ask my staff to take notes of any and everything that was said on the ground. So if you see a regular standard sample sheet, It is macked up, macked up, macked up. The more it is macked up, it is better for me. Because when I'm crunching, I'm actually seeing the field in my very present. I was on the field as well, but I'm seeing what my folks gave me. And if I picked up 300, 400 samples in terms of the unfavorability of any party, there is unsolicited information that tells me why. It's not fully scientific, but when people speak, you have to make note of what people say. So yes, Viva, I would have polled for the boycott in the last poll, and that was very conclusive. That the people felt it was just a colossal error, and it's not because of my bias. Yes, I felt so as well, and as a pollster, I wanted to at least satisfy myself that I was not too out of whack. So my question was designed respectfully, scientifically, to get the response that I got. Then I didn't pull it now, but a number of things which was said from supporters of the party suggested that this, in hindsight, was a big mistake. So BIFA is not yet willing to accept that, which is fine. But there are many, including staunch party supporters and major players within the party apparatus who will not publicly accept and make that claim, but know that boycotting the last election was something that was very wrong. It was an unforced error.
Switching back to the unemployment, when you poll that, did you poll who were the major employers, or what was the major engagement in terms of employment?
No. So what we did in the demographic area, we looked at age. So we grouped people between adults. So we only polled adults. And an adult in polling in electoral business is 18, vote of the age of voting. So we didn't do anybody under 18. We had 18 to 25, 26 to 35, 36 to 50, 50 to, I think, 60 thereabout, and 61 and above. So we know the people that were polled. We know the gender of the people that was polled. We asked the employed question, unemployed question. We asked the NEP question. We asked the small business. We asked the medium business. So all of these, we had check marks on all of this. So that's where we see the people who were younger, how many of them were unemployed, the people who are older, who are still employed because they cannot afford to retire. We have the retirees. So all of that come from that demographic section. We had about maybe like 6 or 7 questions in demographics alone. And that is where you were able to calculate unemployment. So,
how do you, I mean, it's pretty easy to say somebody is unemployed. What is your definition of underemployment?
Underemployment is working for minimum small underwage. So one of our areas of questioning was salary range. Under 500 to 1,000, 1,001 to 1,002.
That's monthly you're talking about.
Monthly.
Monthly.
And 80-something% of the young people were in the 500 a month. That is under employment for us.
Because $500 a month is not, based on the cost of living, is not enough to sustain comfortably someone.
And that. And some of them, and the great percentage as with NEP as well, which pays about $1,000, which is again underemployed, and the unemployment factor as well. I mean, it's even worse than the 60% that we said, but that's how we were able to look.
So what do you consider to be adequately employed? Do you have a kind of, is it 1,500? Is it 2,000? Is it?
Yeah, we think based on the standard and the cost of living in terms of how things are, we think people should be making at least between $1,800 and $2,000.
So around $2,000 a month is where you would start to think that people are adequately employed.
Yeah.
And so the vast majority of the people that you polled will not making, say, $2,000 a month.
Oh no, man! Only about 3 or 4% of the people were making above that.
Say that again.
About 3 or 4% of the people were making above $2,500.
Wow.
Oh, significantly low.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. Because, again, I guess it's who you meet. There are people who make more than that. But, I mean, based on what we are finding, People don't make that money
So,
as
so as you say that, so did you poll like on weekends or weekdays or mix
every
or?
day. We'd
Mhm.
had different days. We had 12 days of polling, and we went there at different times, different days. So work day, weekend, because you have to try to rotate the days and times that you go.
Right. Okay.
And you meet different people at different times. And there was a technique that we used as well. So you go to the field, and if you do not get the full amount that you need in the field, you also go to the areas in Roseau in the bus stands and get people who are from those areas if you can. That was a last resort. So one or twice, some of my pollsters did that. Some of my poll clerks did that. But on the ground at different times of day. In the
Mhm.
morning, sometimes in the afternoon, certainly on weekends, weekdays, you have to rotate. So you can try to find a nice mix of people around the time. There are sometimes we went on a Sunday, and I
Mhm.
said try to go there between the time church is done and lunch. So you make sure you get people who are available to speak and have some time. So this is something that is carefully designed and worked out to make sure you get the people who matter.
Okay. Viva is saying he appreciated your response. I also appreciate you explaining because this is a whole area of education for our people. What is a poll? How is a poll conducted? Um, what you would how you read data and understand the person behind the data or the person behind the news and what their bias might be. How much does that count into the
Into the
veracity
work.
or the confidence you put into what the person says?
And
Um,
biases are certainly a part of it. You cannot flush out every bias.
right.
Because
But
even me too, as a pollster, would have my bias too.
yeah.
And I have to
Mhm.
manage, I have to control for whatever bias that
And
I
you
could
also design your poll to
to flush out my own biases as well.
yeah to
Yeah. So
counterbalance that. I
yeah.
see. I don't want to dominate with Viva, but I see. I like the participation of the audience. So let me just take this last one. He says, just passing a comment. I totally disagree with Alex on his classification of opinions. He repeatedly states that all opinions must be based on fact. I vehemently disagree. Not all opinions are based on established fact. There's an important distinction between ordinary opinion, which are held by people, and professional opinions by professionals such as lawyers, doctors, pollsters. But I think I will not even wait for Alex to answer that because Alex was pretty clear that he
That's
was
what I
talking
said.
about professional opinions.
Opinions, yes.
So although it's unfortunately called an opinion, and our normal definition of of an opinion is just what I think, what I feel. It's my opinion. If I choose to, I can tell you why I have that opinion. That's my opinion. But in the context in which you introduced your poll, you actually clarified that
Yes.
that professional opinion is not.
Has to be.
It has to be based on fact,
Can't be
and that
willy nilly. And
yeah.
FIFA knows that. I told FIFA that
No,
already,
no.
but
He said he was passing on the comment. So
he's saying that
let's
all.
say
I
that.
never said all.
Yeah, yeah. So I think that is addressed. So political state of play in Dominica is that, and I'm going to tell you what I understand from what you said, and you tell me. So I'm going to play like I'm in the audience. I'm the consumer of your poll, and I am interpreting. In fact, to do a one word, a one sentence conclusion is that politically, Dominica is up for grabs, and anybody who has the means and understands it has a good chance of succeeding in the polls in Dominica. Am I am I am I drawing a good conclusion from what you said?
Yeah, I think your inference from the information is quite correct. That's what I would say if I will ask that question. That yeah,
Mhm.
there is something in play, and we just have to know how to make the play to get the support. Yeah, but
Because
it's about
when you say 43% of the people are, I don't call it swing. They are in the swing zone.
yeah. I'm
That
not
is huge.
I'm not even sure swing. I call it quiet abeyance. Probably
Mm.
somebody can give me a better term, but it's not even. They have not swung anyway. They have just retired or resigned themselves to the notion. But is it even worth it? Some people have fed up. Some have given up. Some say it makes no sense. But these are people. These are living, breathing people who can be moved.
You can be motivated.
You just have to know how to move people. The most important thing is to offer hope and to instill confidence. And how you do that? By castigating the other person? No. By coming with a plan, saying, hey, here's how we're going to do. By Anyway, I don't really want to say what has to happen, but parties should be now talking and trying to figure out a way of how we attract those people. Because to have a base is fine. And both major parties in Dominica have a substantial enough base that they can work with, but that's not going to win any party an election in Dominica anytime now.
Because according to you, those bases are shrinking
Oh yeah, man, it's
or
tremendous.
have shrunk.
Have shrunk tremendously.
Mhm.
And again, people may not want to admit it, and they may blame me to say, "Oh, I came to talk about a poll before election, so I caused them the election." But as you see, I'm being very careful, Tony, not to suggest anything more than I am. We are having a discussion about a general discussion about the work that I did. So I'm not trying to
Mhm.
give advantage to any one side or the
Mhm.
other. It is just that the only thing I can say is where we are today. I think the incumbent majority, based on what I have understood and how they are working, based on the machinery that they have in place and what we have seen them do with that reform, they, I believe, have what it takes to milk and to harvest the votes from those people who are skeptical. I'm not saying that they will and they can, because the UWP can do equally as well if they choose to. But with the machinery I know that's in place and the things that I'm hearing happening, in fact, Tony, how do you have a confirmation of electors? And for me to confirm, I am on the list. My name is Alexander Bruno. I'm from Calibishi. I vote in the Pebush constituency. I go with my ID and say, here am I. Me, I am Alex. Here is my ID. I come to reconfirm or confirm. Why do I need a witness? Why? That's me. I have my ID saying that this is me. Why do I have to find somebody to say that is me in addition to my? And then after I confirm, why do I have to wait to confirm my confirmation?
That is the part that is the part I have a big question about.
You know,
Why is there why when I walk out of that process I don't have a receipt in my pocket that confirms that I have been reconfirmed, whatever it is. And if any question comes up, I should be able to go to the polls with my receipt and say, hey, I don't
exactly.
know what happened, but here's my receipt that showed that on August 19, 2026 at 4:30 p.m. I presented myself and all my documents match, and here's the receipt, so therefore I should be able to vote. I don't understand why after that process you have to wait again to see if your name comes up on a list.
Because the confirmed people has to be selected by the powers that be. I am very skeptical about that process.
Yeah.
Very, 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 very deadly skeptical. And I'm afraid that most people who confirm may find that they don't appear for whatever reason or the other. No, I'm not saying that because I want to be mischievous. I'm just saying that something does not feel right about
That
that.
somebody has to approve your confirmation.
Yeah,
Yeah,
after
it's
the
not.
fact, it should be
Yeah,
done
yeah,
here, there.
yeah.
If I go, for instance, you tell me come with somebody, so I agree. I go with somebody. I have my ID. Why can't I be given that slip, that pink slip
Exactly.
that
Yeah,
says you are duly confirmed?
yeah.
I don't mind you give me the ID later on, but
And my name appear on the list when you print your next list. That's fine. But like that slip of paper I walk out with should be sufficient currency for me to go to a polling station and vote.
because most of the people who told me they confirmed complain that they do not know, they know they do, they tell them to come back and they have to come back again
Yeah.
and then they come there with somebody and the person was not there and they understand people are confirming without anybody. It's just a lot of
Yeah.
stuff that we
That
learn.
that part is also concerning where people are reporting different experiences
Yeah.
when they go to confirm. Some people make a phone call and somebody brings their stuff in for them and they are confirmed, and some other people are sent back for this document and that document and this document. So the disparity in the experience is also very concerning.
Yeah, and I learned a lot of that too in the goodwill area, and I'm quite concerned about goodwill, Rosa North,
Rosa
because
North. Uh-huh.
the question is which list is going to be used for the election in Rosa North, the confirmed list or the old list? I think it's going to be the old list because based on what I'm seeing, there is a lot of movements happening, and the old list might be the money list. It might be the list that might give a better result for the incumbent. Again, probably should not be saying all of that, but that's what I'm catching on the ground in real time. And who's going to explain the list and why the list is going to be used and where is the transparency in all of that? So Tony, it's all is not well, and there's a constant sort of machination taking place on the ground, and it bothers me. It bothers me to the point where it really has me feeling very uneasy as a professional um, as to the state of affairs on the island, the imbalance, the unfairness that I see within the system. And I cannot, if a straight face, come here and be politically correct and pretend as if I am a pope. Because I'm a Dominican first. Professional, yes, but I'm a Dominican first, and there are great irregularities based on our
Were you,
findings.
were you familiar with by any chance, the, how do you call it, the voter ID or the election reform that took place in countries like Antigua?
Oh, yes, man. Oh, yeah.
Because I understand that Antigua did, they accomplished theirs in a very quick time,
Like
St.
three
Kitts as
months,
well,
three to
3 months,
4 months.
and they have a larger population from us.
Yeah.
And, go ahead.
What should have happened in Dominica is total, complete re-registration. That confirmation and all that thing is just a zest, a trick designed to do exactly what we see is being done. The authorities in Dominica should re-register everybody who reside on the island of Dominica. And those who don't reside should be allowed, when they get to the island, to have their name back on the list. Make this fair and totally transparent. That is what should have happened. It should not be that I have to have the burden of proof to reconfirm or to confirm with everything you're asking me to do, and I still have to be up. It's like you punishing me you punishing me while you having me help you to do your job. It should be the remit of the electoral office to say, okay, we're going to clean up the list. We're beginning with residents on the island of Dominica. And we are giving an opportunity for people who don't reside to come in to do the same. Because at the end of the day, voting is not a citizenship thing, it's a residency thing.
No, it's both. I think that's what
Well, yeah, you need to be a citizen, but you also need to be residing.
resident, right?
Now, if you want to create a situation where you have absentee voting in the diaspora, you can do that. But it must be fair for all to be able to vote absentee.
Well, I think Alex, I would step one back from you and say that and insert in there the qualification that whatever it is that we're suggesting should be within the construct of the Constitution.
Should be.
Because the Constitution has, until the Constitution changes, the Constitution has something about the 5 years.
Yeah.
That we should not ignore.
So you should do that. Because you know who was here, who was not here. You have the information.
Right. So I don't want people to come back and say, Alex, well, once you land on the island, you should be put back on the list.
No.
That's not what. Right. So that's not what you
say.
say.
Keeping with what the Constitution says. Yes.
Within the construct of the Constitution, register everybody who qualifies to be on them. Make it easy for them. And also, I understand that the voter ID card doesn't mention the constituency that the person is supposed to vote in.
Oh, but it should.
I haven't seen one. I don't even know if there's one. I don't
know if it's designed,
but I understand it doesn't have it.
Look, man, I can pull out my voter ID right now, my brother. It has to have the way.
It has to have where you can vote.
The place you vote and where you vote.
And where you vote.
Look, I have that's my Florida ID there. That's it. That's the voter ID. And it's not even a card, it's a piece of paper, That's it, That's the Florida voter ID right there, It's a folded piece of paper the elector, the supervisor of elections sent.
What information is on there?
Your name,
your
registration number, your party affiliation. Like I'm NPA, no party affiliation. your address, your voting precinct, the name of the supervisor of elections, and where you vote.
Mhm.
That's it. And it's a piece of paper that you perforated and you just tear it out of a letter, and that's the voting ID.
That's the voting ID. Easy as that, right?
It's
Yeah.
not a fancy. It's not even laminated. So you cannot have a voter ID that does not determine where you vote. You have to have where you vote. If it's Paybush or Cottage or Portsmouth, Granville,
Yeah.
no.
So,
It has to say where you're voting. So I just believe that the system, the reform, even the consultation had been so organized to give support to
to make it confusing.
Yeah, and that is just sad because Dominicans and Dominica deserve better. I do not know what we can do at this stage, but it wouldn't surprise me if the incumbent party has its way and continue to have its way through the process. But it would not be the wish of the people. Based on what we found, it would not be the wish of the overwhelming majority of Dominicans if that party continues to serve in government.
All right. So, Alex, we burned through our hour. I'm going to give you the opportunity to if there are any other highlights or standouts from the poll that we haven't had a chance to talk about. If there's any additional, I don't want to use the word opinion, but conclusions or indications that you have seen that you think are worthy of mention. I'm going to give you the next few minutes to talk and mention those things.
Well, the only other thing I would say is that the talk of independent voters, well, not independent candidates,
Uh-huh.
that is a non-entity in Dominica as we speak right now. Dominicans do not see that as any viable option. Dominicans do not favor independent candidates. And any idea or thought of trying to file a list of independent candidates is already dead on arrival, based on the opinion of the people. And I wanted to find that as well because I have been hearing a murmuring talk of an independent slate of party candidates. I didn't think it made a lot of sense, but the poll upheld our suspicion. And I do not think that it's a good and viable alternative. I believe the parties, and I encourage parties to be formed and for parties to put out their messages. There's nothing wrong in having 100 parties in a democracy. There's nothing wrong as well in exchanging notes and having some form of collaboration. But it is also the case that Dominicans do not think that all the parties should contest together as one. That too. Again, I had to test that because people were saying that.
That's interesting. Dominic, it doesn't seem that the voters have an appetite for a coalition
of opposition
parties.
Oh, no. Would you vote for a united opposition party slate of candidates at the next general election? 12.5% of the people said yes.
Wow.
The biggest response was 55.4%, maybe with the right uniting leader. 12.5% said, I am not inspired by the opposition, and 11% said no. So yes, 12.5, 11% said no. The leadership of that grouping, 55.4%. And I also asked a question about opposition leaders as well, in terms of people who are out there. And I do not want to give that information out because
in other words, you asked who people think would be a good replacement for the incumbent?
No, I asked which of the currently engaged leaders within the opposition fraternity inspires you.
Oh, and people actually came up with the name themselves.
The most. And I call the names of the leaders who are actually engaged.
Like a multiple choice, and they would choose the person.
Oh, yes. Yes.
And each person could only choose one person.
Each person could only choose one, yeah.
And there's a standout?
Oh, yeah, there's a standout leader.
Wow. They voted for you, Alex?
Oh, no, my name was not included in Uh, but 23.2% said, I need to see somebody new, and 20% said none. So
Next
that's
time next time you're doing that, I want you to put my name in there. Just-
so that's 43% of the response says somebody new or none. The same we go back to that same 43%. There's always a way to really make a claim and to conclude. So 20% said none, 23.2% said, I want to see somebody new. That is 43.2%. We still go back to my 43%, my brother. But
so
certainly,
so do
certainly,
you do you think
well,
in Dominica the leader has an outsized influence on the performance of the party?
oh, yes. Oh, yes. The leader, the quality of the leadership, the strategy, the charisma, the messaging, the convincibility, if that's a word, the gravitas, the way, the deportment, the way in which the leader carries the message, how seriously the leader is taken, even dress, have a lot to do with how people perceive political leadership.
Look, both me and Alvin Thomas want to be on the next poll.
You have to earn that. You have to actually be seen on the
I just people
ground.
know Alvin, but they would say, who's that Drago guy again? Ah, so,
Yeah,
so,
we
no, so,
can. We
so, no,
certainly probably
so now
can.
we know. Now we know you should put Alvin's name on the next one. but
Alvin knows what time is it, man. Alvin knows.
but this is interesting because it seems the leader of whatever political party has a very large coattail.
Yeah.
The concept of the coattail is that they will carry the various candidates that stand with them a long way,
Oh yeah,
and
man.
so that's so they're saying that's the type of political environment we have in Dominica, where the leader can bring along a member of them. So very interesting. So Alex, I know I interrupted you. Is there go ahead and continue mentioning the other interesting aspects of the pool?
Well, that's the other area I wanted to talk about. I wanted to speak about was about the independent question,
Uh-huh.
because again,
Mhm.
I wanted to be sure that this is a factor or it is not a factor. In terms of no party got a majority in terms of which party people feel is going to win. But again, that is just what people think. Parties have ways of drumming up support and getting people to support their viewpoint. And the overwhelming issue on Dominica is jobs and the economy. That is 57%.
Concerned about the economy.
Oh yeah, agriculture did very well as well in the poll. Crime and violence also featured.
Featured.
Electoral, yeah, healthcare featured. Sports and athletics featured. Electoral reform showed up, but it's not a big deal as we are trying to make it. That's people don't think it is a big issue as some. The international airport, I pulled for it as well. The international airport is not a major factor. So I don't think making an airport or not making an airport is going to determine who wins or who
Well,
loses.
St. Vincent proved that, eh?
Yeah. Yeah.
In the same season that Ralph Gonzalez successfully launched an international airport, he lost his election after a couple of decades in office. So
That's why I wanted to test for that. And it doesn't
mhm,
seem to me that it's going to have any major bearing on any election results in one way or the other.
mhm.
I tested for education as well. People are satisfied that education is not an issue. Um, so the issues I mentioned are those which actually featured in the
Crime and
crime,
violence,
violence, yes, sports,
economy and
agriculture,
sport
economy,
and sports.
yeah,
Okay, mhm.
yeah,
And
all the
health. And health.
oh yeah, healthcare,
Yeah.
one of the top ones as well. I
Mhm.
think healthcare was like the third highest. Crime and violence, the fourth. Electoral reform, way down there. Agriculture was the fifth. You know,
It's so interesting that I'm not following as closely as I should. That health turned up as a big item of concern in the poll, but we have a by-election that's taking place where the major hospital is located, and neither side is um, health is not coming up. I would think that because the hospital is there, somebody could use it as a reason to bring up health as one of the issues in their campaign and their messaging. I haven't seen that significantly used.
Probably they do not know what are the issues because they didn't poll to find out what the issues are.
Yeah,
If I were campaigning right now in Dominica, these were the areas I would be hitting.
yeah.
Bam, 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 bam,
And,
bam.
and especially by election in Roosevelt North, where the hospital is located, I would use that as an excuse to either hype up that we have a state of the art hospital, or hype up that a lot of people are not accessing the healthcare, the quality healthcare that they deserve, on based on which side that you're on, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I don't see that. I don't see that featuring a lot in the messaging. Yeah.
Okay.
Anything else, Alex?
No, I don't want to continue talking about the poll because I may just divulge too much information, my dear friend. I think we talk about the major areas. I know we have passed our time already. I think I was quite generous in terms of giving out some information. I hope
Do
each
you
and
have
every.
is there a website or a place where people can
Oh,
go and see what
Kappa,
you say?
Caribbean. Yeah, we have a social media platform on
Mm-hmm.
Facebook. I'm asking
Mm-hmm.
members to go there. I'll think of putting up some more information. Of course, I'll share our program on that page as well. But
Mm-hmm.
we have an established page. And do we have a website as well? I think we did one time. I don't think it's down for maintenance, but certainly the Facebook page is up and running.
You
It's
need to,
Caribbean.
you need to talk to Sam about that.
Yeah. It's Caribbean Agency for
Political
Caribbean for
environment.
Political Advancement,
Mhm.
Kappa, and we are on social media. Just check us out,
You're on
man.
Facebook, so yeah. And
Yeah,
you are putting something on there already
we put
about this
some
current poll,
preliminary information out there. I
about
give you
this
so
current
much
poll.
more than was put out there, and that's it.
Hmm.
I'm not going to
Hmm.
maybe discuss this polling in that kind of detail anymore. Hopefully, we'll be speaking to people behind the scenes and trying to see if we can have conversations about the business because this
Hmm.
pool has a shelf life of about I think 60 days, 60 days,
When you
67.
explain that, when you say shelf life, what you mean?
All right, so that's interesting. So you see when you go to the shop and they have expiration dates on the goods, the people who produce the goods will tell you that you should consume it by a particular time because if you wait too long, it's not going to be as fresh. So that's the pool. If there is no major social, socio-political happening, dramatic event taking place on the island within the next 60 days, that information is good. If something dramatic happens right now, the information is almost finished. So, based on the normal scheme of things, a standard scientific research is good for about 60 days, at least 45 to 60 days. That's why there must always be constant polling. So that poll past like September, October, it's not reliable anymore. Yes, it is there. It will forever be saying something at the time that it was saying it. But I would not recommend that you use it as a basis for making political decisions.
So the poll is a snapshot, so to
In
speak,
time,
in
yes.
time. But so my interpretation of what you just said is that let's say you issue this poll and you say it's a confidence level of 90%. As it ages, that
That goes down,
confidence level goes down,
drops
drops.
tremendously. Yeah.
And
Oh, yeah.
especially like, so for example, since that poll was taken, maybe now crime and violence might spike even higher than what it is in the poll because of what happened with the young lady and
Recently,
and and,
yes.
and so on. So I hope people, that's why I wanted to go into what you mean when you say it has a shelf life of about 60, 90 days. All right. So Alex, I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you, first of all, for coming up with the idea and implementing the idea of collecting data and helping to shift our culture, our mindset towards the appreciation of having something to base your information on. I think moving in that direction will do will have huge benefits for our people, that we don't just go on feeling. Somebody cannot just come and give us 3, 4, 5 facts in a row and we're on a high, and we use that to make decisions, or somebody run a happy hour and convince us that whatever, that we need to move to a culture where people appreciate and use data to make decisions. So thank you for that. And then thank you for coming on the program to actually give it out to the horse's mouth, so to speak. This is what I did. This is how I did it. This is why I am qualified to do it, right? And then this is what I found, and this is what I think what I found means. Or I would say opinion, but a professional opinion that this is what I found means, and so on. And then it's there, and folks can take it and go with it, and so on. But putting a plug for CAPA, Caribbean Agency for Political Advancement. If you have political aspirations, so Alvin, you and I both want to be on the list, so we need to employ Alex to do a poll for us
Yeah.
to find out what we need to do for somebody who's already popular but not in politics, and somebody who is nobody really knows. How do we get ourselves known, and known in a favorable way? Because the opportunity might be right. Alex said ripe.
Yeah.
Alex said that 43% of people said they they don't like who is there, or they would like to see somebody new. So that's our opportunity to step
Oh yeah, man.
into the fray. But I mean, I'm saying that in jest, but really and truly, folks, I know there's a lot of people who have had their careers, or in this certain stage in their life where they it's not inconceivable for them to offer themselves for service. Here is a poll that is saying that if ever there was a time to do it, now is the time to do it, because there's a lot of disaffection for the folks who are currently in. And for the folks who are in, here is a report card that says that you need to do more, or you need to do something different, because the voters out there are not enamored with they're not quite happy. So examine yourself, do a reflection, do some consultation, and see how you can freshen up yourself. Do you go on the media and be nicer, gentler, more intelligent, more aggressive, whatever it is? If you are in the fray of politics in Dominica, understand that right now you have a vast majority of people who are saying that we're not happy with what you have done so far. So take that as a warning, not warning, but a report, an
Something.
assessment that you can use to educate and help you develop what you do next, and for the next 3 to 6 months. So Alex, final words, and let's close this up.
Okay, so thanks, Tony, for allowing me to have this exchange. These are the kind of exchanges I have with media concerns outside of Dominica. And I guess for all intents and purposes, TDN would have to be qualified as a media concern that operates outside. Although you are Dominican media, but you operate from outside. I cannot remember the last time I had such an engagement with a Dominican based media concern. I mean, I do this all the time in Antigua and other places where you have real talk. People challenge you professionally and respectfully. I think the maturity that our media had at one point in time is sadly lacking. And I'm not criticizing the Dominican media, but I think what happens after interviews like this, I normally get called by the local media. So I am preparing to probably do a round of interviews locally. So thank you for challenging me and for holding me true to the profession that I have taken a vow to do. Um, I also want to say to the people who gave us the information, thank you. I was on the island and I could not even find the time to visit my birth home, my birth house, because I was so caught up with this work. There was no time for luxury or for social amenities. Hit the ground running on the ground because we were understaffed, underfinanced. So I had to be supervising everywhere. So I never had a minute to enjoy Dominic.
You drink a jelly though, and you take a sea
No,
bath.
my brother, no. I bought a newspaper from the Sun to read. I didn't get a chance to read the newspaper.
Wow,
It was
wow!
that's I'm telling you, Tony. I did not even have a river bath, my brother.
Imagine that.
I could not because it was just so taxing for me. I came back with a glaze in my eyes, depressed like crazy because of what I found on the island. I'm being honest to God about that. So hopefully the next time I find the time for relaxation. But this last time we had to do the work. And for those people who trivially treat the work that we do, they should probably cannot maybe take a step back and just try and appreciate the effort being made. Because I think at the end of the day, it's in my remit, it's my duty to do this, and I'm doing this as best as I can, and hopefully somebody will continue after I'm done, or at least join and give another perspective of the work. Challenge me as much as you want to challenge, but don't dismiss people like me because we put a lot of sacrifices, a lot of my own resources, and certainly all my time into the effort. So thanks again, Tony, for appreciating that, for respecting the effort, and for allowing me an audience to share some of my findings. I now feel as if that it was worth it to do the work, and I'm looking forward to engaging with you again sometime next month.
You're very welcome, and of course, next month we do it. And like I said, the country can only benefit from encouraging people to use data on which to make decisions. E- Everything should rise and fall on data. How satisfied are you with the incumbent government? Use data. Compare what was happening in 2010, what happened in 2000, 2015, 2020. Use the data to see the trend and say, oh, look at how far we've come. I
Mhm.
think we can keep going the way we are going.
Yes,
Or look at where we were, look at where we did well, and then we started to go down. Maybe to stem that downward decline, we need to give somebody a rest so they can go and refresh and come back again. But
and we have
always,
all of that.
always, always data,
We have
and,
all of
and
that. We have
all
all
of
of
that,
that.
you know.
Mhm. And
And
the
data,
most and one
go
of the
ahead.
most important thing, because I know I said my last, but one of the most important thing, Tony, that sometimes we are charged, or I am charged of saying that I predict something going to happen. Tony, I have never, ever, 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 ever predicted election results. That's not what we do. That's not what I do. I suggest trends
Hmm.
in terms of what is happening now. What's going to happen at the general election, I have no control over that because the poll is blind to certain things. We do not know the machinations that we are not seeing. We only see and hear what people say. So there's a lot that we don't know, and don't hold it against me if that incumbent party that is so unpopular now comes and win all the seats at the next election. In fact, I don't make predictions. I don't say who's going to win. And sometimes it bothers me a little when people continue saying that Alex again with a poll. Why should I stop my profession because you don't like what I do? And I have never one day came and say one party is going to win over the other. That's just not how this is done. Exactly what I did tonight is what I traditionally do when I release information. So I'm hoping the public is not misconstruing my exchanges and interpreting that what I said is suggesting that Labour will not win because they're not popular, and workers will not win because they're not popular. Any party can win if the party does what is necessary to attract the votes. And I can
That is the conclusion I got from what was said tonight.
thank you very much.
That the country is up for grabs politically if someone understands properly the situation and
Thank you.
comes up with a strategy to address it and
That's
to
it.
take advantage of it. That's all. So continue doing what you're doing. Data is something that I like. I've always done statistics. I did statistics at A levels in Dominica. I did statistics as part of my both of my degrees. So it's something that I'm I wouldn't say passionate is a strong word, but it's something that I actually respect and understand the importance of data and the analysis of data and the use of data for decision making. Um, and with mathematics and all that, it can
Yeah.
really we can really drill down. Most people that know me know I'm a nerd. So when it comes to those things, I will actually do the maths
Oh
and
yeah.
come up with a mathematical decisions and conclusions, which everybody doesn't need to do. But that's where I am. I'm happy for people like you that's trying to bring the public more in that direction because we need to move away from this, grab something from your hat, grab something from. Before I let you go, for example, this thing about, well, we want to have a population in the country of 100,000 people by 20 whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I hear that and I'm saying, okay, what is a 100,000 number? Why 100,000?
Why
Why not
100,000?
110? Why not 120? Why not 90? Why not 200,000?
Yeah.
Right? And then the next thing is like, say, okay, if you have 100,000 people, how many people can one main hospital serve? Does that mean we're going to have a second hospital? The way, you know,
Yeah.
how many more vehicles we're going to have on the road? Can a road accommodate
Yes.
that? Do we do a public transport system? So that is how I nerd
Trust me.
down on things like that when I hear it. It's a simple statement that we want to have a population of 100,000 people by the year 2035 or something like that. But
Mm.
my brain hears the math and I'm saying, okay, if we throw 100,000 people in, what else do we have to throw in? Services. What else do we have to throw in?
No,
And
no, no.
that's what I want to see our culture move towards.
I mean,
Um,
it is an interesting proposition, if you want to bring in an injection of people into the country to concentrate in a particular area, say agriculture. Well, you have to create amenities to house those people. Are we going to do it the Florida way where you have them on farmlands in areas? I mean, you have to explain why. No, I think it's a good proposition, but we have to explain and
it's a good concept.
we have to know what it is we're going to do with 100,000 people.
It's a good concept, but why 100,000? Do we need to go all
Yeah,
the way to 100? How many people do we have now? We don't even know that. Alvin made a point
but
earlier that we haven't had a census in more than 10 years, or at least
no,
the
we have
results
had
of
a
a census.
census, but they have
Mhm.
not done in fact the figures because the figures are very alarmingly low.
Right. And so we don't even know how many,
Alarmingly
and so
low.
we don't even know how many people we have now, which is where you should start. If you want to go to 100,000, where are we now?
It's
How
twice the
much,
population you're
how
talking
many
about.
more we need to get? And so I don't want to prolong the discussion, but I wanted to give a really live example of
We can speak a
how
little bit about more about that
next
next
time,
month.
yeah,
Yeah.
how do you hear what people say is so important to our, it is not taught in schools, that is not regular high schools and so on. That I like those conversations because it brings a different kind of education, a
Yeah.
different type of thinking.
And the other thing you hear is Dominica is a resilient country. As a country, the resiliency that we have in Dominica is from the people, not from the country, because the country and the people are different things.
Yeah.
The country is a landmass that is going to experience natural interventions and stuff. The resilience that we have in Dominica is the people. And I proved that the last time. So I do not know how Dominicans are surviving in Dominica on $500. But people are finding a way to do it. That is resilience.
That is
It's not the country, it's the people. And the politicians are saying, no, Dominica is a resilient country.
what does that mean?
What does that really mean? So that's the problem. But anyway, people say a lot of things, and I just listen sometimes. I don't answer because they don't talk to me, so I just hear them.
Yeah.
The only thing I'd like to say before I leave, Tony, and I tested again the ground, and in Goodwill, Rosenhoff, I can say with some level of confidence that the incumbent, the majority party, is now statistically competitive in Rosenhoff. They had never been. In the times that I've polled, they had never been. But they are statistically competitive now.
Mhm.
That can be interesting. I'm not saying that, much about that, but it's interesting that they are now. And I've never found it to be that way before now. And again, it goes back to FIFA Mamu and the boycott. I don't think we should have given up Rose enough. That and other things as well. But somehow they are statistically competitive. And if you give a party for machinery, um, a cushion. You never know what can be made of it.
What they would make of it. Yeah. All right. So Alex, let me not indulge you more and tell you good night, and I appreciate you very much. Thank you so much. Um, that's what happens. We get a lot from Dominica. We go out, we increase our skills and our knowledge, and we find a way to bring it back home. So thank you for that
Yeah,
very
man.
much, and enjoy the rest of the week. I'll see you again in the month of September. Can you imagine? We're already into the
September
month of
already, man.
September. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So all the best. Maybe we can try to come back before the 7th, which is the by-election, but I'm not sure because I have a couple of things lined up. But we can talk about that. It'd be interesting to talk about by-election and the confirmation and all of those things. It just seems like it's just tied up. But good night, Alex, and all the best. Thank you so much for coming in after hard days of work. I really appreciate that. And even if you said you didn't do much in Dominica, you look fresher than the last time. So despite what you did not do, Dominica was still kind to you.
Oh
All right.
yes. Oh
Okay.
yeah, man.
All right.
All right.
Okay. Good night.
Take care. Good night.
Okay. So, folks, there you have it. Another really interesting conversation with Alex Bruno. The work he does is wonderful work. Get your copy of the Flying Crapo, Volume 4, Unexpected Door, today, and the link is there. As I said, check it out. You will not regret it. If based on Volume 1, 2, and 3, 4 is promising to be just as intriguing and enthralling. And once you read 4, if you haven't had 1, 2, and 3, I can guarantee that you will want to go get it. So it's right there. And of course, also go to the Android App Store and download your TDN app so you can have us with you on the go. I want to say good night and thank you so much, guys, for staying through the entire time. I think we had a really lively discussion with Alex Bruno from his business called CAPA, Caribbean Agency for Political Agency. Go check them out. They have Facebook page. He has his results of his latest polls on there. And if you're looking to start a business in Dominica, if you're looking to do anything in the islands, contact them and see if you are able to use their services so that you can invest or whatever other activity you want with greater confidence, knowing that you have some data that you can use to help you guide your decisions. So with that, I want to say good night, folks. Have a wonderful rest of the night. We know there's a lot going on in terms of the recent really sad event concerning the young lady up in the north. We wish everyone to feel safe and to be safe. And whatever it is that you think you can contribute towards achieving that goal, I encourage you to not just think it, but take the action to have it happen. So, good night. Till next week.